We were just, exploring all Colorado, a lot of the national parks. Well, I was laying on the couch watching television. It was a little before 9 o'clock, I believe. And my cell phone rang and I picked it up. And it was just a random call from Boulder, Colorado.
It was probably around 9:30. I think I was out in my living room and just watching TV. And I knew something was off because it was my dad calling. It was his number, so I knew right away. So I answered it, and it was my mom's voice. And you know when you hear that tone where you know something's wrong.
The Rangers can give you a ride down.
At first we stayed together, and then we kind of just split off a little bit because just testing different routes.
Free climbing doesn't mean climbing without a rope. Free climbing means you're climbing vertical or near vertical or beyond vertical rock face using only your hands and feet. You can use ropes for security. If you fall, the rope will catch you, and it's a fairly complicated system, although straightforward if you understand it, but it takes some time to get used to it. But you're climbing with your hands and feet. There's another kind of climbing called aid climbing, and aid climbing involves placing various types of anchors in rock and then pulling yourself up. Then there's free soloing, which means free climbing with only your hands and feet and without a rope.
And then we kept going, and at some point I had took my phone out, took a picture, sent a picture to my dad, answered a couple messages while I was taking a break, and then I kept climbing, and I believe I was about 20 feet from the top. I don't have any memory of everything after that.
As her two friends were above her, and she tumbled down the side of off the cliff. One of the members of Rocky Mountain Rescue Group just happened to be hiking in the area and heard all the commotion. So he didn't have his radio with him, but he called on his cell phone to the other Rocky Mountain Rescue Group members, said she fell in a cartwheel motion. As we get up to the staging area, it's called the Bluebell Shelter, and then you have to hike from there up the trails and carry all the equipment in from that point. So he's calling down, saying we need a litter, we need the beanbag, we need these types of ropes, this type of technical gear, this many people.
Either you can get to the top of the formation they're on and then rescue them when they're below you, and you could come up some easier way. Or if there's no easier way to get above the patient, then you've got to climb basically the same thing they did. So you have all that same climbing gear, ropes, rock protection, all the carabiners, and bring your climbing shoes, and you just climb up above them. And you have to use a more complicated system than what climbers would use, but you're still just using ropes and various kind of mechanical devices to control ropes and how fast or slow they move. And essentially what you would do in that kind of a situation is you'd get above the patient, you'd have at least 2 ropes involved in a system, and you would either haul them up to where you were, if that was a good area to evacuate them, or you would lower them down to the base of the cliff where some rescue could be facilitated.
The rescue was still going on. It was when Erin's friends actually got around to where we were at, and that way, because we had no idea who she was or anything, and then they were able to give me her parents' phone number, so then that's when I called.
So, but then he said, no, I'm the police for search and rescue. Your daughter had a fall at the Flatirons in Boulder, Colorado. And I'm like, well, is she okay? And he goes, well, we don't know yet. He said, we have a search and rescue team going out there for her now. And he was very calm and more or less he knew what he was talking about. He told me it was a dangerous area where she was, and she was climbing and she had a fall, and I said, well, is she by herself? And he said, well, she had a couple of friends and they're here with her.
And they have to figure out if they're gonna do a technical climb up to her, or if they're gonna go up around a little bit and then, scramble across. So it just depends on what route they pick on how much time it takes for the rest of the people to get there. And then once they get there, they set up the ropes to lower the litter and all the people back down. So somebody's taking care of the person that's injured, doing medical care. Somebody's setting up the rope system for the evacuation down, and then somebody's actually down below figuring out the route out from the base of the rock through the tundra down to the trail, back to the trailhead where the ambulance is.
I went into the other room where my husband was, and I tried to give his phone number to the sheriff, and he said, I'm gonna give you my number and you can call me back on his line, because my phone was, the battery was dying. I hung up and had explained it to my husband as best as I could at that point, and then I called him back and he said they sent out a search and rescue team, and I said, is she injured? Is she coherent? And he said, well, right now all we know is she possibly has some broken ribs and a broken leg and possibly some head injuries. He didn't really go into too much detail because he didn't know, I don't think. We talked a few minutes and then I said, I gotta call the kids. That was hard to do. So, we didn't know whether she was alive or dead. And I had to explain it to her siblings.
He had said originally it was going to be about 2 hours.
Yes, he did.
And then the time kind of went over that. And so finally, I think you called.
Yes.
And one of the questions I said is, she put him on speaker. We were standing by the bar, and she said, I said, ask him if she's conscious, because at least then we know.
Next time I was conscious, I was actually in the stretcher already, and the rescue team was carrying me down. And I don't have too much memory. The only thing I do remember is I think one of them was calling me the wrong name. Didn't realize, I guess, didn't know what my name was, or didn't have heard the wrong thing and was calling me the wrong name.
That was my biggest fear, is that she was unresponsive. So she did say that, and he had said, we have eyes on her, and yes, she's been speaking the whole time. So
I really didn't understand what was going on. I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I guess I was aware that something wasn't right for sure. I was aware that I couldn't really move. I don't know if it's because of the way they had me strapped in so tight so that I wouldn't hurt anything more.
That in a way was a bit of a relief, because at least we know that she was speaking, or she had spoken.
Yeah, the hospital was weird. It's still fuzzy, to this day. I don't remember a lot of my time in the hospital. The first couple of nights especially, because I spent the first 2 nights in the ICU. And I remember when I got to the hospital right from the ambulance, it was I felt like there was 12 doctors and nurses in the room, and it was they were cutting my clothes off of me and putting me in a hospital gown and cleaning up a lot of the blood, and they had to cut some of my hair because I had stitches in my head.
Knowing that she didn't have anybody out there as family or anything like that. So he just said, you definitely need to come. He said, I'm not saying you need to jump on a plane first thing in the morning, but you need to be here. So
we had already looked flights up, even before I think you had already looked at your miles, or you knew you were gonna fly or look at American Airlines when we got here, you know, and the thing. So I think in your head already, that was already a thought.
Yeah, Erin didn't want me to come out, because she told me that when I talked at 4:45 to her. She said, I don't want you to do that, Mom. I don't want you to come out. I said, Erin, I'm coming out. That's what family's for. And she didn't want me to come out. So, and I just said to her, no, I'll be there on Friday morning. You know what I mean? At that point, I didn't know the time or anything at that point, but
you knew you needed to work.
Yeah, we would figure it out, so. Recovery has been long. It's been about 4 months. It happened in October, and I wasn't able to start walking really until February. So that was a really hard, rough time for me, because I'm a very active person. I don't like sitting in one place for a long time. I don't like not doing things. I like going to the gym. I like hiking. I like just getting out and about and doing lots of activity. So recovery, I'm very impatient. So recovery has been tough that way, because testing me, because even though there's been really good small moments that are I took my first steps. I took my first steps without a crutch. I was able to get back up on my toes for like the first time doing like heel presses, things like that, that feel great. But then like there's other times where it's like, why can't I can't run again. Like I'll be walking with my friends down the street and they're like, you know, a couple steps ahead of me because I'm like really slow now.
Her other injuries, most of them I can say have healed. She had stitches in her head. She had a lot of bruising throughout her body. She had internal liver and kidney issues, but all of that seems to have healed nicely. It's more or less her talus bone in her foot was broken, and she had to have surgery for that. So, but I feel like, you know, she's on the groove. She's on the mend. She'll be back to normal hopefully by the summer.
My life is never going to be the same after this. There's a lot of things that I will never take for granted anymore. Just like having this like almost second chance at life, because it's like it was such a near-death experience that I just feel like at this point it's like I really was given that chance and I can't waste that. I can't let that go to waste. I really need to it's helped me appreciate the people in my life. It's helped me appreciate the time that I have had, the things that I have done. It's helped me appreciate just everything, every aspect of it, being able to walk, you know, not being born with a disability. We take that for granted. It's things like opening the door, things that you wouldn't, when I was hurt, obviously I couldn't do and stuff like that. And then people were doing it for me and it's like, wow, some people have to deal with this every day of their life.